What are you doing?
I'm holding my breath for the market to crash, and unfortunately, it's not going to happen in our region. We understand that if you're looking around the nation, there are markets that they have had price drop. But south of Seattle, in the two areas that we serve, we're going to talk about what's really happening in the market. So you don't have to hold your breath waiting, and you could exhale and take a look at what the data really says.
We're Joe and Charity. We are local realtors. We help people just like you every week who are considering moving into the Pacific Northwest.
So reality number one is prices are not crashing. However, they are not skyrocketing either.
National average forecast is about a 2 to 4% growth in home prices over the next year, and we are right in there. Pierce County had a 2% increase over the last year, and Thurston County had a little over a 4% increase. But some of you might be saying, I am watching online, and every single house I look at, there's a price drop.
This is where things can get confusing for people, because when you look online and you're seeing, well, this house has been reduced and this house has been reduced, that must mean the prices in that area are crashing. What truly happens is people price their homes too high and then have to reduce the price to be where the market is really at. When Charity says that it's a 2% year over year, a lot of times people are thinking, I want to sell mine for more than that. So they have what's called aspirational pricing. They price high and then they end up taking something less. And that works actually against them. But the year over year, well, it's 2% more if you're in the Pierce County and a little over 4% in Thurston County. So things are heading up, just not heading up with aspirational pricing.
Yeah, this is exactly what's happening. In fact, I was at an appointment the other day talking with a seller about wanting to list her home, and we looked at the price that she had purchased the home for. We looked at the price that the previous person had purchased the home for, and we looked at the data for how much the market is actually increasing. But guess what? She still wanted to price it all the way at the top, and she was also assuming that buyers were going to either offer her lower than her list price or ask her for concessions. Because of that fear of how buyers are going to write an offer, she wanted to price it high to start with. Let's move on to reality number two, and that is that inventory is up and competition hasn't disappeared.
So what do we mean by inventory is up? Well, in Pierce County, there's around 2,300 homes for sale, and in Thurston County, around 900 homes for sale currently. That is about 2.5 months of inventory. Let me dissect that for you. A balanced market where there's buyers and sellers kind of at an even level, well, that's between 4 to 6 months of inventory. So when we have 2.5 months, we are still under historic averages for a balanced market. So you can kind of see where that could be confusing, thinking, oh, inventory is up. That means there's just going to flood the market and prices are going to crash. Well, we still haven't hit what's called a balanced market as of yet.
And even with an increase in inventory of 39% in Thurston County and 13% in Pierce County, we have just reached that 2.5 months of inventory mark. So we are nowhere close to too much inventory causing a problem in our area.
What really is happening is we are finally digging ourselves out of the hole that we're in a few years ago during the COVID unicorn years, to where there's only a week or two, maybe even a month of inventory, and homes are selling so quickly that you really hope that you're going to get something that you like. That is no longer the case.
Yeah, people have time now to think. Back during those years, you did not have time to think, you just had to act. The level of inventory now gives buyers great options for finding the home that they truly want.
It's also important to note that certain parts of the market are still moving rather briskly. If it's a first-time homeowner entry-level pricing, those homes are still going pretty quick. And also, if you're downsizing or upsizing into the right neighborhood where you want your kids to be in school, those markets priced well are still moving rather quickly.
And the reason for that is because people who are either downsizing or upsizing have a good amount of equity in their home, so they can sell, not have to worry about the rates, have a good chunk that they can move on to the next house.
And that leads us to reality number three, which is mortgage rates. Now, they've been hovering around 6%, a little bit over the past year, and the forecast is for them to kind of stay in that same range of around 6%. And we think that that's truly okay. Helps kind of balance the market and move it forward at an appropriate pace. Now, some are forecasting a little bit underneath 6%. Fannie Mae is around 5.9%. Others are projecting it's going to be the same 6 to maybe 6.5%. I'm not exactly sure who is right on this. My gut is I think we're going to be in the high 5s to low 6s by the end of this year. And those are actually pretty good historic rates for you to be able to get into a home.
Now, some of you, when you hear Joe saying that's a good rate, you might be thinking that is a terrible rate because you came into the market when the mortgage rates were in the 2s and the 3s. 30s and that's what you're used to. But for those of us who have been around for a while, even those who have been around longer than us, know that a 5 to 6% rate is actually a really good rate. In fact, when we were kids, they were up in the 18% range, which is crazy. I don't even know how anybody was able to buy a house back then. But that 5 to 6% is going to keep the market really even. And already that is such a big improvement because we are at the lowest rates that we have been in 3 years. That is worth celebrating. And there's an increase in your affordability of a few $100s since that time. So now is really a great time to jump back into the market and not wait for those hovering rates to take a dip, because there are not a lot of forecasters saying it's going to go dramatically lower.
And that leads us to reality number 4 is sales are basically flatlined. Now, since the rates went up a few years ago, transaction volume dropped around 40%, and that has statistically stayed true for the past 3 years. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Fewer homes came onto the market, fewer buyers in the market. It really has created a new norm. That is great for year-over-year appreciation, like Charity mentioned earlier, 2% in Pierce County, a little over 4% in Thurston, and moving along slowly and gradually really stabilizes that. So I am a big fan of what we're seeing in the market.
Yeah, just think, although it was quite exciting during the COVID years when things were increasing 20%, it was really only exciting for sellers. It was not exciting for buyers.
Not at all.
And every seller also had to become a buyer. So they only got that relief on one side of it. We do not want the market to increase by 20%. The national average for over 100 years has been 3%, and we are right in the middle of that, and that is a very good place for us to be.
So that leads us to reality number 5. The spring market is nearly here. What are we going to expect this next spring? I think, honestly, things are going to move at the same pace that they have been. Traditional spring market is between April and June. You'll have the most homes that hit the market during those swings, and it's usually about 30% higher than the off season. This is usually the time people are trying to get their kids into the right school, whether they're moving up or they're moving into the area. So that is what's traditionally defined the spring market.
But last year, the spring market didn't really act like the normal spring market. People were still very concerned about those high interest rates, and so we were pretty level in the spring. This year, as Joe said, we do expect it to pick up a bit. We're already seeing it pick up. We have a lot of clients that we're working with who are actively looking for homes. So you can expect there to be a little bit more activity, but you shouldn't have to worry about it being like COVID years. However, as Joe did mention before, some houses are going quickly. We do have houses that are selling with multiple offers still, and those happen to be the ones that are priced perfectly and in great condition, and they just happen to have multiple buyers who are looking for the same thing at the same time. The early indicators that are pointing the way that this is going to be a good, healthy spring market is that mortgage applications are up, and also we are seeing some multiple offers that are priced really well and also are in great condition. And what's really important to know, if the market does pick up at a faster pace, is that your strategy for writing an offer is going to be very important, and that's where our help comes in. We will help you strategize to write the offer that's appropriate to the market that we're in, because we don't write the same offer when we're in a slower market as we do in a faster market.
Matter of fact, at every price point for entry-level, mid-level, and luxury has a different strategy depending on what's happening with that home. Like Charity mentioned, it's not just a uniform approach that we do, it's tailored to what's happening at each price point in each market, because everyone has a different expectation. Buyers at the higher price point have an expectation of what that home's going to be. Entry-level has a different expectation of what that home's going to be. Downsizing has a different expectation. Upsizing has a different expectation. So each one of those and how it fits into the market is unique.
And all of that is important to know if you're a buyer, but what if you're a seller?
So when we talk to sellers, we like to give them the information depending at the price point, because it boils down to what Charity said: price, location, and condition. We want to price it correctly for where the market is at, not where aspirational pricing would want it to be. Because when you price it too high, oftentimes you will see, as we alluded to, price drops follow, and that's a harder market to catch up to. So if we price it right to start with, that's crucial. The condition: buyers want the home in turnkey position. Now, it's nuanced at price points, but it is kind of universally true. They don't want a lot of projects, they don't want a lot of deferred maintenance, and they want to have good curb appeal. And then location. Certain locations are just hot. So if you have a wonderful home that is situated in the perfect location, i.e. you're on the water, or an amazing view of the water, or a perfect piece of property that has an amazing view of Mount Rainier, well, that location is going to aid your sale. However, if it's not quite the perfect location, then be aware pricing is going to have to adjust, or condition is going to have to adjust to make sure that you get top dollar for your home.
So there you go, 5 realities about the current market. And if you're smart, you will not be doing this and holding your breath. You'll be breathing through it all, knowing that you have the stats and the information to prepare you to either buy or sell your home.
So if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us at a number below. You can give us a call or shoot us a text, or jump on our calendar in the link in the description below. So we'd be more than happy to make sure that you're fully informed as you make your decision to move to the Northwest.
And if you've enjoyed this video, keep watching, because the next one is going to give you even more information about living in the beautiful Pacific Northwest.